Part 4 of the Cosmic Consciousness series, Instances of Cosmic Consciousness. Chapter 1, Gautama the Buddha. It is not, of course, intended to write biographies here of the men given in this volume as cases of cosmic consciousness, nor equally, of course, can more than the faintest hint be given of their teaching. The facts quoted from their lives and the passages from their words are simply intended to establish and illustrate the fact that these men were illumined in the sense in which that word is used in this book. 1. Siddhartha Gautama was born of wealthy parents, his father being rather a great landowner than a king, as he is sometimes stated to have been, between the years 562 and 552 BC. It seems sufficiently certain that he was a case of cosmic consciousness, although on account of the remoteness of his era, details of proof may be somewhat lacking. He was married very young. 10 years afterwards, his only son, Rahula, was born. Shortly after Rahula's birth, Gautama, being then in his 29th year, suddenly abandoned his home to devote himself entirely to the study of religion and philosophy. He seems to have been a very earnest-minded man who, realizing keenly the miseries of the human race, desired above all things to do something to abolish or at least lessen them. The orthodox manner of attaining to holiness in Gautama's age and land was through fasting and penance, and for 6 years he practiced extreme self-mortification. He gained extraordinary fame for which he cared nothing, but did not gain the mental peace nor the secret of human happiness for which he strove. Seeing that the course was vain and led to nothing, he abandoned asceticism and shortly afterwards, at about the age of 35, attained illumination under the celebrated Bo tree. For our present purpose, it is important to fix the age of the oncoming of the cosmic sense in this, as two other cases, as precisely as possible. A very recent and probably good authority gives it as 36. 36. Ernest D. Bunsen, in his work The Angel Messiah, says that Buddha, like Christ, commenced preaching at 30 years of age. He certainly must have preached at Vaisali, for 5 young men became his disciples there and exhorted him to go on with his teachings. He was 29 when he left that place, therefore he might well have preached at 30. He did not turn the wheel of the law, became illumined, until after a 6 years meditation under the tree of knowledge. Now, as to the result of his illumination, what did he say about it? And what change did it effect in the man? The Dhammapada Sutta is accepted by all Buddhists as a summary of the words in which the great Indian thinker and reformer for the first time successfully promulgated his new ideas. In it, over and over again, Gautama declares that the noble truths taught therein were not among the doctrines handed down, but that there arose within him the eye to perceive them, the knowledge of their nature, the understanding of their cause, the wisdom that lights the true path, the light that expels darkness. He could not well more definitely state that he did not derive his authority to teach from the merely self-conscious, but from this cosmic conscious mind, that is, from illumination or inspiration. Compared with what Bayman says of himself in the same connection, I am not collecting my knowledge from letters or books, but I have it within my own self, because heaven and earth with all their inhabitants, and moreover God himself, is in man. 4. In the Mahavagga, it is said that during the first watch of the night following on Gautama's victory over the evil one, the night following upon his attainment of cosmic consciousness, he fixed his mind upon the chain of causation. During the second watch he did the same, and during the third watch he did the same. This tradition exists among both northern and southern Buddhists, has come down from the time before the separation of these churches, and is therefore probably genuine and from Gautama himself. But it embodies in clear and concise language one of the most fundamental phenomena belonging to the oncoming of the cosmic sense, most probably the revelation of exceeding greatness, of which Paul speaks, the vision of the eternal wills of Dante. The knowledge that passes all the argument of the earth of Whitman, the inner illumination by which we can ultimately see things as they are, beholding all creation, the animals, the angels, the plants, the figures of our friends, and all the ranks and races of humankind, and their true being and order, of Edward Carpenter. 5. Again, in the Akankyaya Sutta, is set forth the spiritual characteristics which belong to those who possess the cosmic sense. No one, not having it, could have written the description which doubtless proceeds, as claimed directly from Gautama. Neither could any later possessor of the faculty set forth more clearly in the same number of words the distinctive marks which belong to it. For instance, it is said that the attainment of artatshit, or supernatural insight, Nirvana, illumination, cosmic consciousness, will cause a man to become, in Gautama's words, beloved, popular, respected among his fellows, victorious over discontent and lust, over spiritual danger and dismay, will bestow upon him the ecstasy of contemplation, will enable him to reach with his body and remain in those stages of deliverance which are incorporeal and pass beyond phenomena, cause him to become an inheritor of the highest heavens, make him being one to become multiple, being multiple to become one, will endow him with clear and heavenly ear, surpassing that of men, enable him to comprehend by his own heart the heart of other beings and of other men, to understand all minds, the passionate, the calm, the angry, the peaceable, the deluded, the wise, the concentrated, the ever-varying, the lofty, the narrow, the sublime, the mean, the steadfast, the wavering, the free and the enslaved, give him the power to call to mind his various temporary states in days gone by, such as 1 birth, 2 births, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 1,000, or 100,000 births, his births in many an aeon of renovation, and many an aeon of both destruction and renovation, to call to mind his temporary states in days gone by in all their modes and in all their details, to see with pure and heavenly vision surpassing that of men, being as they pass from one state of existence and take form in others, beings base or noble, good-looking or ill-favored, happy or miserable, to know and realize emancipation of heart and emancipation of mind. And here are some parallel passages. Were mankind murderous or jealous upon you, my brother or my sister? I am sorry for you. They are not murderous or jealous upon me. All has been gentle with me. I keep no account with lamentation. What have I to do with lamentation? The holy breath kills lust, passion, and hate. Yet, O my soul supreme, knowest thou the joys of pensive thought, joys of the free and lonesome heart, the tender, gloomy heart? Tomb leaves, body leaves growing up and above me, above death. Heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ. The other I am. Thou teachest how to make one twain. That's a personal favorite. Is this not a perfect description of a large and important part of what the cosmic sense did, for instance, for Dante, Shakespeare, Balzac, and Whitman? I pass death with the dying and birth with the new washed babe. No doubt I have died myself 10,000 times before. Compare faces where this heavenly vision is seen in action, or the final and supreme test. Part 6. A few other passages alluding to the cosmic sense and having more or less close parallels in the writings of more modern illuminati may be given in further illustration, but it is almost needless to say that whoever desires light on this subject should read for himself, not once but over and over again, the words left us by these lords of thought. Here is a passage from the book of the Great Decease. Gautama is teaching his disciples. He speaks as follows. So long as the brethren shall not engage in or be fond of or be connected with business, so long as the brethren shall not be in the habit of or be fond of or be partakers in idle talk, so long as the brethren shall not be addicted to or be fond of or indulge in slothfulness, so long as the brethren shall not frequent or be fond of or indulge in society, so long as the brethren shall not neither have nor fall under the influence of sinful desires, so long as the brethren shall not become the friends, companions, or intimates of sinners, so long as the brethren shall not come to a stop on their way to Nirvana because they have attained to any lesser thing as riches or power, So long may the brethren be expected not to decline, but to prosper. Well, it is needless to quote parallel passages from Jesus. They are so numerous and will occur to everyone. But it is worth noting that Paul also uses almost the very same language, referring to the same figure which is in the mind of the Buddhist writer when he says, comparing Nirvana, the cosmic sense, and the things belonging to it to the prize of a race. He says, "One thing I do, forgetting the lesser things of the Buddhist text, which are behind, and stretching forward to the things which are before, I press on toward the goal of the prize, unto the prize." Compare also the Song of the Open Road, in which the same thought is elaborately worked out. Then as to the admonition against business and the lesser things, such as wealth, consider the lives of Gautama, Jesus, Paul, Whitman, and E.C. Edward Carpenter, most of whom either were or might easily have been well off, but either turned their backs upon their wealth, as Gautama or Edward Carpenter did, or simply declined to have any, as Jesus and Whitman claimed. In commentary upon this fact, read these words of Whitman. Beyond the independence of a little sum laid aside for burial money, and of a few clapboards around and shingles overhead on a lot of American soil owned, and the easy dollars that supply the year's plain clothing and meals, the melancholy prudence of the abandonment of such a great being as a man is to the toss and pallor of years of money-making with all their scorching days and icy nights, is the great fraud upon modern civilization. Part 7. The following lines are quoted as a plain allusion to the cosmic sense. The whole Upanishad should be read. Upanishad. There lived once Svetakatu Araneya, the grandson of Aruna. To him his father Udalaka, the son of Aruna, said, "Svetakatu, go to school, for there is none belonging to our race, darling, who, not having studied the Veda, is, as it were, a Brahmana by birth only." Brahmana. Having begun his apprenticeship with a teacher when he was 12 years of age, Svetakatu returned to his father when he was 24, having studied all the Vedas, considering himself well-read and stern. His father said to him, "Svetakatu, as you are so conceited, considering yourself so well-read and so stern, my dear, have you ever asked for that instruction by which we hear what cannot be heard, by what we perceive what cannot be perceived, or by what we know what cannot be known? That seeing they may see and not perceive, and hearing they may hear and not understand. I do not doubt interiors have their own interiors and exteriors have their exteriors, and that the eyesight has another eyesight, and the hearing another hearing, and the voice another voice." Good stuff. Part 8. In the same connection, read this verse. The teacher replies, "It is the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind, the speech of the speech, the breath of the breath, and the eye of the eye." Just one more passage. Excuse me. That one, the self, though never stirring, is swifter than thought. The senses never reached it, it walked before them. Though standing still, it overtakes the others who are running. The moving spirit bestows powers upon it. It stirs and it stirs not. It is far and likewise near. It is inside of all this and it is outside of all of this. And he who beholds all beings in the self and the self in all beings, he never turns away from it. When to a man who understands the self has become all things, what sorrow, what trouble can there be to him who once beheld that great unity? The sense is a sense that one is those objects and things and persons that one perceives in the whole universe. Part 9. The specific reasons for believing that Gautama was a case of cosmic consciousness are: A, the initial character of his mind, which seems to have been ardent, earnest, and aspiring, such indeed as usually always precedes the oncoming of the cosmic sense. B, the definiteness and suddenness of the change in the man from unceasing aspiration to and endeavor to achievement and peace. A religious life is well taught by me, says Gautama, an instantaneous and immediate life, says he again, And again, Gautama is said to teach the instantaneous, the immediate, the destruction of desire, freedom from distress, whose likeness is nowhere. C. The age at which illumination is said to have been attained, the typical age for the oncoming of the cosmic sense, 35 years. D. The general teaching of the suttas said to have come from Gautama, which teachings undoubtedly spring from a mind possessed of cosmic consciousness. E. The intellectual illumination, supernatural insight, ascribed and justly ascribed to Gautama and proved by the above teachings if these proceed from him. F. The moral elevation attained by Gautama, which nothing but the possession of cosmic consciousness will account for. G. Gautama seems to have had the sense of eternal life, which belongs to cosmic consciousness. The Mahavagga is supposed to give the whole considerable accuracy his actual teaching in such matters, and that's a reference. Okay, sorry. No. In it we find these words: the man who has no desire, who knowingly is free from doubt and has attained the depth of immortality, him I call a Brahmana. It is important to note that the test is not a belief or assurance, however strong it may be, in a future eternal life. The man, in order to be a Brahmana, to have attained Nirvana, cosmic consciousness, must already have acquired eternal life. H. The personal magnetism exerted directly by him upon his contemporaries and through his words upon his disciples in all ages since. And I. There is a tradition of the characteristic change in appearance known as transfiguration. When he came down from the mountain Myanmar, a staircase of glittering diamonds, seen by all, helped his descent. His appearance was blinding. Allowing for oriental exaggeration, a germ of truth may be contained in this tradition. 10. Part 10. If now Gautama had cosmic consciousness, and if, as seems almost certain, it has appeared among his followers generation after generation from his time until now, then it must have a name in the copious literature of the Buddhists. There is, in fact, a word used by these people as to the exact value of which Western students have always been more or less in doubt, but if to that word we assign this meaning, all difficulty seems to be ended, and the passages in which that word occurs are seen to have a clear and simple signification. The word referred to is Nirvana. Kinsei M. Hire says, Nirvana is interpreted by Western nations as the actual annihilation of human desire or passion. But this is a mistake. Nirvana is nothing else than universal reason. It may be doubted whether Mr. Hire by universal reason means cosmic consciousness, but his intention in using the expression is the same. If he realizes or shall ever realize what cosmic consciousness is, it is certain that he will say that Nirvana is a name for it. Part 11. In further illustration of this point read as follows, part of a chapter on Nirvana by an excellent authority, Rhys Davids. One might fill pages with the awestruck and ecstatic praise which is lavished in Buddhist writings on this condition of mind, the fruit of the fourth path, the state of an arahat, of a man made perfect according to the Buddhist faith. But all that could be said can be included in one pregnant phrase. This is Nirvana. There is no suffering for him who has finished his journey and abandoned grief, who has freed himself on all sides and thrown off all fetters. The gods even envy him whose senses, like horses well broken in by the driver, have been subdued, who is free from pride and free from appetites. Such a one who does his duty is tolerant like the earth, like Indra's bolts. He is like a lake without mud. No new births are in store for him. His thought is quiet, quiet are his word and deed when he has obtained freedom by true knowledge. They who by steadfast mind have become exempt from evil desire and well trained in the teachings of Gautama, they have obtained the fruit of the fourth path and immersed themselves in that ambrosia, have received without price and are in the enjoyment of Nirvana. Their old karma is exhausted, no new karma is being produced. Their hearts are free from the longing after a future life, the cause of their existence being destroyed, and no new yearning springing up within them. They, the wise, are extinguished extinguished like this lamp, Ratana Sutta. That mendicant conducts himself well who has conquered, that is sin, by means of holiness, from whose eyes the veil of error has been removed, who is well trained in religion, and who, free from yearning and skilled in the knowledge, has attained unto Nirvana. Samaparabhajanya Sutta. What then is Nirvana, which means simply blowing out, extinction? It being quite clear from what has gone on before that this cannot be the extinction of a soul, it is the extinction of that sinful, grasping condition of mind and heart which would otherwise, according to the great mystery of karma, be the cause of renewed individual existence. That extinction is to be brought about by and runs parallel with the growth of the opposite condition of mind and heart, and it is complete when the opposite condition is reached. Nirvana is therefore the same thing as a sinless, calm state of mind, and if translated at all may best perhaps be rendered holiness. Holiness, that is, in the Buddhist sense, perfect peace, goodness, and wisdom. To attempt translations of such pregnant terms is, however, always dangerous, as the new word, part of a new language, which is the outcome of a different tone of thought, while it may denote the same or nearly the same idea, usually calls up together with it very different ones. This is the case here. Our word holiness would often suggest the idea of love to and awe in the felt presence of a personal creator, ideas inconsistent with Buddhist holiness. On the other hand, nirvana implies the ideas of intellectual energy and of the cessation of individual existence, of which the former is not essential to and the latter is quite unconnected with our idea of holiness. Holiness and nirvana, in other words, may represent states of mind not greatly different, but these are due to different causes and end in different results. And in using the words, it is impossible to confine one's thought to the thing expressed, so as not also to think of its origin and effect. It is better, therefore, to retain the word nirvana as the name of the Buddhist summum bonum, which is a blissful holy state, a moral condition, a modification of personal character, and we should allow the word to remind us, as it did the early Buddhists, both of the path which leads to the extinction of sin and also the break of the transfer of karma, which the extinction of sin will bring about. That this must be the effect of nirvana is plain, for that state of mind which in nirvana is extinct, Upadana Klesa Trishna, is precisely that which will, according to the great mystery of Buddhism, lead at death to the formation of a new individual to whom the karma of the dissolved or dead one will be transformed. That new individual would consist of certain bodily and mental qualities or tendencies enumerated as already explained in the 5 skandhas or aggregates. A comprehensive name of all 5 is upadi, a word derived in allusion to the name of their cause, upadana, from upada, to grasp either with the hand or the mind. Now, when a Buddhist has become an arahat, when he has reached nirvana, the fruit of the 4th path, he has extinguished upadana and klesa, but he is still alive. The upadi, the skandhas, his body with all its powers, that is to say, the fruit of his former sin, remain. These, however, are impermanent. They will soon pass away. There will be then nothing left to bring about the rise of a new set of skandhas, of a new individual. And the arahat will no longer alive or existence in any sense at all. He will have reached paranibbana, complete extinction, or nirupana sesa nibbana dhatu, extinction so complete that the upadi, the 5 skandhas, survive no longer, that is, in one word, death. The life of man, to use constantly recurring Buddhist simile or parable, is like the flame of an Indian lamp, a metal or earthenware saucer in which a cotton wick is laid in oil. One life is derived from another, as one flame is lit another. It is not the same flame, but without the other it would not have been. As flame cannot exist without oil, so life, individual existence, depends on the cleaving to law and earthly things, the sin of the heart. If there is no oil in the lamp, it will go out. though not until the oil which the wick has drawn up is exhausted. And then no new flame can be lighted there. And so the parts and powers of the sinless man will be dissolved, and no new being will be born to sorrow. The wise will pass away, will go out like the flame of a lamp, and their karma will be individualized no longer. Stars long ago extinct may be still visible to us by the light they emitted before they ceased to burn. But the rapidly vanishing effect of a no longer active cause will soon cease to strike upon our senses, and where the light was will be darkness. So the living, moving part or moving body of the perfect man is visible still, though its cause has ceased to act, but it will soon decay and die and pass away, and as no new body will be formed, where life was will be nothing. Death, utter death, which no new life to follow is then the result of, but is not, Nirvana. The Buddhist heaven is not death, and it is not on death, but on a virtuous life here and now, that the Pitakas lavish those terms of ecstatic description which they apply to Nirvana as the fruit of the fourth path of arahatship. Thus, Professor Max Muller, who was the first to point out the fact, says, Buddha Gasha's parables, if we look in the Dhammapada at every passage where Nirvana is mentioned, there is not one which would require that its meaning should be annihilation, while most, if not all, would become perfectly unintelligible if we assign to the word Nirvana that signification. The same thing may be said of other such parts of the Pitakas as are accessible to us in published texts. Thus, the commentator on the Jakata quotes some verses from the Buddhavasana, or History of the Buddhas, which is one of the books of the second Pitaka. In those verses we have, inter alia, an argument based on the logical assumption that if a positive exists, its negative must also exist. If there is heat, then there must be cold, and so on. In one of these pairs we find existence opposed, not to Nirvana, but to non-existence, whilst in another the three fires, that of lust, hatred, and delusion, are opposed to Nirvana. Fosbo Jataka text. It follows, I think, that to the mind of the composer of the Buddhavasana, Nirvana meant not the extinction of the negation of being, rather, but the extinction, the absence of the three fires of passion. So little is known of the books of the northern Buddhist canon that it is difficult to discover their doctrine on any controverted point, but so far as it is possible to judge, they confirm that use of the word Nirvana which we find in the Pitakas. In the Lalita Vistara, the word occurs in a few passages, in none of which is the sense of annihilation necessary, and in all of which I take Nirvana to mean the same as the Pali Nibbana. Or it says the Pali Nibbana. Gautama says, I went to Benares where I preached the law to the 5 solitaires. From that moment, the wheel of my law has been moving, and the name Nirvana made its appearance in the world. This refers to the date of Gautama's illumination and seems to plainly show that Nirvana is a name of cosmic consciousness. Elsewhere in the same book, we are told of men who walk in the knowledge of the law after the attainment of Nirvana. And again, Nirvana is a consequence of understanding that all things are equal. Once more, there is no real Nirvana without all knowingness, that is cosmic consciousness. Try to reach this. Also, Gautama speaks of himself as having explained in this world the perfect law, of having conducted to Nirvana innumerable persons. If he explained the perfect law and concluded to Nirvana while still living, he must certainly have reached Nirvana himself during his life. Gautama also addresses himself to men who have reached Nirvana. How could he do so if Nirvana was annihilation? The words of Bernau's translation are, Jem me address a tu ses kravaka ox homs ki son parvanos eleta de pratica Buddha and so on and so forth. So to Sariputra, thanking and praising Gautama, says, Today I have reached Nirvana, in his own language. Nirvana, therefore, is certainly something which a man may acquire and still go on living. The Tibetan rendering of the word is a long phrase meaning, according to Bernau, the state of him who is delivered from sorrow, or the state in which one finds oneself when one is so delivered. This is confirmed by Mr. Beale's comprehensive and valuable work on Chinese Buddhism, where the Chinese version of the Sanskrit Parinirvana Sutra has the following: Nirvana is just so. It just is, it's just so. In the midst of sorrow, there is no Nirvana, and in Nirvana, there is no sorrow. The early Sanskrit texts of the northern Buddhists, like the Pali texts of the Pitakas, all seem to look upon Nirvana as a moral condition to be reached here in the world and in this life. Part 12. Finally, in order to show that as the word is used by those who know its meaning best, it can hardly mean death and may well mean what is here called cosmic consciousness. Read the following passages culled from the Dhammapada, one of the oldest and most sacred of the Buddhist scriptural books. Every passage in this book in which the word nirvana occurs is here given, and with them parallel passages from other analogous writings. Earnestness is the path of immortality, nirvana. Thoughtlessness, the path of death. Those who are in earnest do not die. Those who are thoughtless are as if they are dead already. These wise people, meditative, steady, always possessed of strong powers, attain to nirvana, the highest happiness. A bhikshu mendicant who delights in reflection, who looks with fear on thoughtlessness, cannot fall away from his perfect state. He is close upon nirvana. One is the road that leads to wealth, another the road that leads to nirvana. If the bhikshu, the disciple of Buddha, has learnt this, he will not yearn for honor, he will strive after separation from the world. Men who have no riches, who live on recognized food, who have perceived void and unconditioned freedom, nirvana, their path is difficult to understand, like that of the birds of the air. He whose appetites are stilled, who is not absorbed in enjoyment, who has perceived void and unconditioned freedom, nirvana, his path is difficult to understand, like that of birds of the air. Once again. Some people are born again, evildoers go to hell, righteous people go to heaven. Those who are free from all worldly desires attain nirvana. If, like a shattered metal plate, gong, thou utter not, then thou hast reached nirvana. Contention is not known to thee. The awakened call patience the highest penance, long-suffering the highest nirvana. For he is not an anchorite, pravragita, who strikes others. He is not an ascetic, stramina, who insults others. Hunger is the worst of diseases, the body the greatest of pains. If one knows this truly, that is nirvana, the highest happiness. Health is the greatest of gifts. Contentedness is the best riches. Trust is the best of relationships. Nirvana, the highest happiness. He in whom a desire for the ineffable nirvana has sprung up, who is satisfied in his mind and whose thoughts are not bewildered by love, he is called Urdvamsratas, carried upward by the stream, that is. The sages who injure nobody and who always control their body, they will go to the unchangeable place, nirvana, where if they have gone, they will suffer no more. Those who are ever watchful, who study day and night, and who strive after nirvana, their passions will come to an end. Cut out the love of self like an autumn lotus with thy hand. Cherish the road of peace. Nirvana has been shown by Sugata Buddha. Okay. A wise and good man who knows the meaning of this should quickly clear the way that leads to nirvana. For with these animals does no man reach the untrodden country, nirvana, where a tamed man goes on a tamed animal, on his own a well-tamed self. He who, having got rid of the forced, that is of lust, after attaining nirvana, gives himself over to the forced life, and who, when removed from the forest, from lust, that is, runs to the forest, look at that man. Though free, he runs into bondage. The bhikshu who acts with kindness, who is calm in the doctrine of Buddha, will reach the quiet place of nirvana, cessation of natural desires and happiness. O bhikshu, empty this boat. If emptied, it will go quickly, having cut off passion and hatred. Thou wilt go to nirvana. Without knowledge, there is no meditation. Without meditation, there is no knowledge. He who has knowledge and meditation is near unto nirvana. As soon as he has considered the origin and destruction of the elements, khandhada, of the body, he finds happiness and joy which belongs to those who know the immortal Nirvana. The bhikshu, full of delight, who is calm in the doctrine of Buddha, will reach the quiet place Nirvana, cessation of natural desires and happiness. And conclusion, part 13. Gautama then was a case of cosmic consciousness, and the central doctrine in his system, Nirvana, was the doctrine of the cosmic sense. The whole of Buddhism is simply this: there is a mental state so happy, so glorious, that all the rest of life is worthless compared to it, a pearl of great price to buy, which a wise man willingly sells all that he has. This state can be achieved. The object of all Buddhist literature is to convey some idea of this state and to guide aspirants into the glorious country, which is literally the kingdom of God.